Hello and welcome to another Veevar Guitar podcast. Today we've got James Higgerson with us and we're going to be talking about musical health. So he's got some questions he's going to ask us. We're all going to have a bit of a chat and talk about musical health and mental health in the music industry.
Very nice. So I during the first lockdown, I think as most people did, went a bit insane.
Oh yeah.
But no, I sort of started realizing that I was kind of playing less and less. And I was kind of surrounded by, especially kind of online, all of these people doing all of these really interesting creative things. And I had a bit of a shocker when it came to kind of my own playing and my own like musical output in general, which was quite weird. And I think it opened a kind of Pandora's box into all of these kind of thoughts around kind of the modern music industry and world and just being a creative like now. And I really sort of started focusing on my own kind of like playing and how it affected or not even playing really, but creative output and how it affected like my mental health and stuff like that. And I thought I started this page on Instagram, mainly just so I could write about the kind of experiences that I was having, in the kind of hopes that, you know, rather than going onto Instagram and you know, seeing all of these amazing players, which is obviously, fantastic to do and to see. But I think it's nice to kind of see the other side of it as well, in that, you know, how, you know, some people do struggle with just, you know, faith in their own ability or feeling like they're not doing as much as somebody else might be or something like that. Mm-hmm. So I kind of wanted to share my opinion and hopefully get a lot of other things, and I connected with a couple of people, which was really awesome. But obviously, when I spoke to Adam about this, I think we were doing a lesson or something, weren't we? And we just started chatting about it, and they said it would be a good idea for a podcast. So it'd be a great opportunity to sit down with a couple of guys who have been playing for years and are pretty respected in their field. Yeah, to do some bits and pieces.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for coming on. I think it's definitely a subject that's got a lot of talking scope, and I think to begin with, I think technology and kind of music has kind of brought around this whole double-edged sword almost feeling about kind of putting content out, making sure that content is as perfect as it can be, but then also comparing yourself to other guitarists. Like, you do it just happens. Yeah. There's no way around it, and people, you don't know how long they've spent kind of sitting in front of their camera trying to get that perfect take.
I always get it first time.
Yeah. Never any doubt.
Everyone knows that's a massive lie.
But, you know, and it happens though. There was a guy he was really prevalent on Instagram, and he stopped recently, just all social media. Mateus, yeah. Just because getting that perfect take was just consuming him and like way too much. I don't know, I don't want to tell a story, but like for me, that's like, yeah, I can see kind of parallels in kind of what I do at home. Trying to put music together, release music as well, create music. And I think with COVID and kind of being in front of your computer all day, and it's not been helpful, and also not getting out of the house and kind of seeing friends and family.
So do you think COVID's magnified that, or do you think it was people have these thoughts anyway?
I think since the dawn of time, I think people have had thoughts like this, but I think particularly just in the creative kind of industry, if you like, I think there was this massive, and it wasn't even in the creative industry, it was in just everybody's life. It was like, don't waste this time, because you're never going to have this much time off from work again, or you know, whatever. So it was like, do something, get a new hobby. I don't know if you've noticed it, but obviously I had an influx of students when everything started to open back up again. I had an influx of people that had picked up I've always wanted to pick up the guitar, and I had time this year, so I thought I would, which is obviously amazing. But for those, you know, kind of us who have already been, you know, playing for years and things like that, I don't know, it did just seem like there was this massive kind of, you know, oh, well, I'm going to use this time to record my solo album, or I'm going to, you know, learn a new instrument or something like that. And it was a bit like, oh, I've just been sat here eating like ice cream. And
everyone started doing those virtual gigs and stuff, or you did one, didn't you, where it was like,
we didn't really do a gig, separate. But we did a couple of lockdown videos with my band and released them just all in our houses, just kind of, you know, little camera and just kind of 4 different screens on kind of editing it. And we did a couple of those, and we kind of took the opportunity, like you said, to, as a band, like, let's release content when every other band is taking a break, and try and stand out and wave our arms as big as we can, and do it that way. So you're absolutely right. People did see that kind of lockdown thing as an opportunity to do things, I think. And that's what we did. I think it worked pretty well for us. Got a little bit of scope from it. Got kind of some content out there when bands weren't doing it. So for us, it was kind of, as a band, it was positive. I think as an individual and as a musician, certainly as a teacher, it was a tough time for me. I'd just moved to Cambridge and I wanted to build my business in Cambridge. You know, kind of moved all my teaching from Milton Keynes to Cambridge in late 2019, and then I couldn't get any work, obviously, because if you go to a school, they'll be like, oh no, we're not having anyone in, and like for a solid year and a half, I didn't have much work.
Yeah, I lost loads of money as well.
Yeah,
we all did, didn't we?
Yeah,
it wasn't
and
good, was it?
I think in that respect, kind of the income and money, unfortunately, the way the world works, when that's not coming to you, that is an easy way of kind of getting into a hole and feeling down about everything. But I mean, then you just have your support system, hopefully, and kind of find your family and friends to talk to. And fortunately, I'm kind of in a better position now financially, but also then musically, kind of bringing that back around to music. It didn't want me to pay. It didn't make me pick up my guitar. There's no chance I could find any inspiration to pick it up and learn and do anything or teach or be proactive in finding students as well. So that was definitely tough.
Yeah, that was sort of one of the main things that I wanted to sort of ask you guys about, because it's something that I've struggled with up and down. Obviously, I sort of go through. I think like everybody does on some level, sort of ups and downs with your mental health and things like that. Especially with cause I put so much pressure on myself. Again, I think like a lot of a lot of players do to be at this sort of standard. When you do have a kind of slump, because I'll go through. I might have one day where I just have a really bad like playing day, or I'll be teaching, and and you just when your fingers just aren't there. And not all the time. I've gotten a hell of a lot better with it recently. Again, from talking to other players and just kind of accepting that that's the way that it goes sometimes. But that could really have a sort of a negative effect on me, to the point where I'd kind of procrastinate about it. I'd be like, well, I'm not going to play the guitar today, because there's almost like anxiety behind picking it up, because there's this expectation that I'm putting on myself. And I just wanted to know if any of you three have had any, like, when you've had slumps with playing, if you've had slumps, or if there's ever been, a period where you've put, excess sort of pressure on yourself to perform, or just thinking like, oh, I'm crap. Do you know what I mean? Which I have those thoughts, not daily, but do you know what I mean? So you record something and you listen to it back and you're like, that can't be me. That's not.
Well, in a good way, or in a bad way, in a bad way.
Sometimes in a good way, yeah, but no, mostly you're like, what is that? So yeah, I didn't know if any of you guys had ever sort of experienced.
The only slump I've ever had really with playing is when I'm teaching too much. Because if you're teaching 50 hours a week, the last thing you probably want to do is actually try and create something, like play a song or learn a new riff. Too much of a good thing, isn't it, sometimes? Mm-hmm. So...
Yeah, I can kind of come at it from a maybe not guitar perspective, but as a music producer as well. Just seeing other people who are really, really good, and I'm coming out of it like as a new producer, like literally meeting so many new people who are already kind of getting there. They're in their publishing deals or whatever. And I'm just kind of coming in and working with these people, but then trying to make my own name as a producer as well was like very, the whole imposter syndrome thing. That's what it's called, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just kind of getting results, but then thinking, am I only getting this because I'm with these guys or because I'm doing this? And rather than actually like.
But I mean, are you relatively new to the like production
industry? Not now. I was when I first started working in the industry. It was like I hadn't had a session before. I'd always done stuff at home, making beats on my own. I'd been producing, but not like producing.
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
a beat
yeah,
maker
yeah,
before.
Yeah.
When it's actually like I've got a vocal produced now and I've got to put the song together. I've got a song right with these people.
Yeah.
And
were you never like, obviously because you went into it sort of already at a sort of certain standard, but was there ever a sort of moment where you were like, I'm new, like chill out, like I can be like I can let, do you know what I mean? Like it's a learning curve. I mean, you immediately put that like, no, I've got to be like pumping out the highest level. Do you know what I mean? Because this is what these guys are doing. Whereas, if you're just starting out, like,
I think it's all is the only pressures are like the pressures you put on yourself. Because when I started, I was like brought in by a group of producers that all worked at the same studio. It was amazing. It was like a hub of all these great producers, and we were all the same age, all good friends. So there was no reason to be anxious about anything.
Yeah.
But it was like
yeah.
It's
It's fear of the unknown, though, isn't it? It's 'cause you're
I
not-
was going to say something new. It's always the way it goes.
And most of the people you're working with who you admire probably felt exactly the same.
Oh yeah, for sure.
style.
I mean, I had these talks with people as well, and that's what's great about it. You've got good friends around you that are all feeling similar things as well. So you're with them constantly. I literally lived at the studio, and we all did. All of us were there. But yeah, again, it's when I first got involved with these guys and like creating with them, it was fun. Like I was on a high. It was like, this is amazing. It was only when I signed a publishing deal, which was like the goal I was going for, that suddenly I started to get all this anxiety back again. I'd had like anxiety problems before and panic attacks. Only one panic attack, which I don't ever want one again. I'd had all that before, but that all went when I started doing stuff. I was like now producing with all these people and working with these people and what I wanted to be doing rather than sat in my bedroom just hoping everything would come to me, which it doesn't.
Pro tip.
It doesn't just come. You got to actually go and do something. But yeah, finally when I'm starting to work with them, that was great. I was like, I had no anxiety, it was cool. And then suddenly when I got my publishing deal, I think the week before or even the day before, I started coming back again. And it was so weird because you think, oh, that's the one thing you've been trying to get for so long.
That's why though, isn't it? Because you've put that so valuable.
And it's change. It's like anything big that's about to change or any pressures that are going to come, it's a big thing. So it's just how you deal with it. But luckily, I've had the right people around me and good supportive family and stuff. So it's been good, but ups and downs, but it's good.
Yeah, no, solid. Very nice.
Just going back to the production thing, did being a guitarist in that environment where a lot of the other producers were kind of keys guys, did that make a difference to kind of how you approached producing and how they saw you as a producer?
Definitely. I mean, some ways good, some ways bad. Like so in terms of the good points, it was I started working with people just as a guitarist to begin with. So I was coming in writing chord progressions, and that's how I ended up working with Levi, and we did Pillow Talk together for Zane, and he brought me in. Within a week of working with him, we literally clicked, and he got me on that song. They already had the song, but it needed it finishing off and needed some guitar parts written over it. So it just worked perfectly. But that's how it works at the studio. I was the only guitarist there, really. There was another guitarist there, but he was more a producer. And funnily enough, like he's one of my best friends now, and he records and writes guitar all the time now. He's like obsessed with guitar, bought all these pedals and like amps and he's well back into it now. I used to borrow his guitars when I was at the studio. I had a lovely Taylor acoustic and a Sandberg bass, which I've now bought I've bought one myself because I'm not at the same studio as him anymore. I used to literally just go in there, can I borrow? He knew exactly as I'd open the door, oh, you need the bass. Yeah, here you go. But you're right. It's a whole different thing with me being the guitarist there. I was, kind of working with all these guys and adding something that they didn't have, and same with them when I was making stuff. They would be. This is why it was so great, why it worked so well. The only kind of negative thing is you kind of get pigeonholed a bit as the guitarist producer, like you're the indie guy or the rock guy or singer-songwriter guy, not the hip-hop. My main thing was recording, or in terms of making beats, was always rap. It was that trap beats and hip-hop. that was how I started. But then you just kind of get put into that lane of.
We should do a song together. I'm pretty good at rapping.
Yeah, I've not heard one of your raps.
That's a joke, by the way.
No. It's on camera.
Oh no, I've committed.
It's on camera now.
Yeah.
No, so when you so I meant to ask. I know we had a sort of brief chat about your session stuff a little while ago. But like when you were getting into, because I wanted to be a session player, and I think it still might be something that I'd like to look into at some point, not on a sort of ridiculous scale or anything like that. But I did one session job once, and it was some people from the local church. They were organising this big sort of like musical. I don't know if you've seen those like massive concert halls in America where they get like the gospel choirs and the preacher comes out with energy, and it was like that, but in a really small studio in Milton Keynes, and they wanted somebody in to come and play some guitar parts over the top of, and I was like, hell yeah, man, like that'd be awesome. They had 2 rehearsals, and then they wanted to come in and actually do it. And it turns out they were gonna like stream it and film it. They had a proper like film camera there and everything like that. And I was like, oh damn,
What songs are you doing? Are you doing a bit of Megadeth?
Yeah.
Bit of Slayer in there.
Yeah, Angel of Death was. I think they wanted to open with that. No, but I came to the first day of rehearsal. They'd sent me over a couple of songs. They didn't want any sort of chordy stuff because they just had sort of keys guys there. So like, oh, just do a bit of improvising. I was like, yes, that's like what I love doing more than anything. So I was like, that's awesome. Just sort of sit down.
24 bar Shredfest or something like that.
Yeah, literally, yeah. I was like, do you want to see how fast I can play this scale? But no, it was really fun. It was really nice. First rehearsal went pretty well. There was a couple of songs there that they didn't send me that we just kind of had to do on the fly and stuff. So that was, and that was a pretty big sort of deal for me because that was the first time I'd ever really gone and played sort of for people, in front of people, especially for money as well. That was like, I was getting paid to be here. So, I sort of had to perform. But it went really well, and I was actually kind of really looking forward to it. Went there on the day. 5 times the amount of people that were there previously turned up for this thing, and through the session it was about 3 hours, almost non-stop, and it was bad. It wasn't good. It really wasn't good at all. The sound. I shan't name the studio in Milton Keynes, but let's just say they're not known for their preparation.
Right.
And they had no idea how many people they were going to need to like mic up for and everything like that. So just doing sound check was ridiculous. Yeah. And I was sat right next to the bass player and his massive sub. And the drum, I think they had 2 drummers actually. They would sort of take turns, but I think they had like 2 different kits. They had like 3 keys players, one of whom I was right next to as well.
These gospel drummers go mad as well.
They do, mate. They do.
They're trying to keep in time with their fills. It's like...
But I couldn't hear myself at all. I tried just coming through the PA, and that wasn't really working. I was just getting drowned out as soon as anybody else made any noise. Put the headphones on, couldn't hear anything. All this was being recorded as well, mind you. This wasn't just like recorded footage. Yeah. This was audio was all being recorded. So I was just running through a Helix, I think, straight into the desk. And I sat there and just, honestly, I'm amazed I wasn't just sat there weeping through the whole thing, because I didn't know it was. Oh yeah, the other thing as well is that none of the songs that we did in rehearsal were the songs that we did. For 3 hours, I was sat there just playing bits of lead over songs I didn't know in keys that I didn't. When you've got to like figure. I've got relatively good ears, but I'm not the kind of guy that's like, that's in G. Yeah. You got to like, I need to hear this note, because I couldn't hear my guitar. I'm like trying to. Is that the note? Is that the note I'm trying to get? And it was honestly like after that whole thing, like I got out of it and I was just like all over the place. And I was, I think about an hour and a half in, I just settled into the fact that this was just a terrible experience. And I was like, just sit here and enjoy the ride. People are around me shouting about God and stuff like that, which it was a really cool thing to see all of them do, obviously. And some of the players in there are insane. Obviously, the church guys really know how to play. No, so what the final sort of nail in the coffin, again, to bring this background to the kind of anxiety that it brought up, was there was a guy there who, when I was setting up, he saw that I bought the Guthrie, obviously, and he was like, oh, you know, he was really interested in it. He didn't play, but I think he was kind of interested in music and stuff like that. So he was really getting on me about the guitar and stuff. And he's, oh, you know, how long you been playing? How long you been, you know, doing session stuff and blah blah blah. He was a pretty nice guy. After all of this was done, obviously they could hear me perfectly fine in the booth. I couldn't hear a thing that was going on outside. And I came in and spoke to the guy that was on the desk, and Mate Boy, who'd complimented my guitar previously, was there, and he was like, well, you meant to be playing out of key. Oh no. And it was just that, like, it was just that, oh, crap. Like, this is, no, but I couldn't hit. You feel like you're giving it, like I couldn't hear anything, and like I didn't know what I was doing, and it really sort of put me off. I never really pursued it again after that, because it was just
that's a shame. One, you know, ignorant.
No, I know, and it's a shame that it was I mean, it couldn't have gone much worse. So I guess I've reached the. Do you know what I mean? I've done the lowest.
Without demeaning that experience, I mean, we've all had terrible live performance.
Oh yeah,
but,
yeah.
You know, I've had mine
no,
as
for
well.
sure.
Yeah.
A few times. A lot of it is how you react to it, isn't it? But it's all a learning curve. If you've never been in that situation before, you're going to probably be like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, I'm glad that I've, you know, like I said, I think that there's no way that anything's ever going to go. No way that everything's ever going to go that bad again. But that was, as things go, it was pretty. I mean, like 25, 30 people in one, like semi-large room.
Yeah.
All kind of, I mean, none of them knew at the time that I was making any mistake, because none of them could hear me. But like, I still feel bad about like accepting payment for the gig. Do you know what I mean? I was like, I don't.
Yeah, but you were put in a situation that wasn't very professional.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, I was a bit baffled that they would just lead it. Again, none of the songs that we did in rehearsal were done.
So I don't think that's acceptable. I think that's really unprofessional.
I mean, it wasn't a professional, like. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't really a professional gig, but it was the first sort of, you know, paid sort of bit of guitar work I'd had outside of teaching that I'd actually gone and done. But again, you know, that I have a sort of big anxiety around sort of playing live, and even when me and you did a couple of bits, didn't we, Adam? You know, you just asked me to write a couple of bits over some tracks, just while we were doing some lessons and things like that. And I sort of came back, you know, the next week. And I'd written the solo, thought it was awesome, you know, played it, practiced it, rehearsed it, it was all good. So I came back, standing in front of Adam, and I'm like...
I'm 6'5" of pure muscle. I'm going to scare anybody, aren't I? I better not stand up.
But it was just, I really get in my own head. And again, like, because I mean, you obviously you've played live. All of you, I think, have played live, you know, quite a lot. You know, do you like still get, or like? Well,
I think that's a tricky one, because you're literally performing to a teacher who's already a musician, and you're being judged by a fellow musician in a way.
The thing is, to me, I don't really think it matters that much. I'm just like, you're another person, and because I'm holding myself to the stick. Because you know, when you're playing in front of a student and you make a mistake, they don't know a thing. Not that they don't know a thing, rather, but they don't notice that you've made a mistake.
They don't know anything.
I do this.
I'm teaching them.
James, I do this. That gives it away.
No, but you notice it though. Like, you notice it, but they don't. And I feel like when you're playing in front of anyone,
I acknowledge it. If I do a little slip, I go. Oh.
I do as well. Like, in front of students, it doesn't bother me at all. But when I'm in front of just other people that have either come to watch me play, or I'm just playing and they're around, for some reason there's this different sort of switch in my brain that just goes like, you know, every little slip that you make is just like...
A good trick to break the ice is what I did in the studio. I used to Levi off all the time. We can bleep that out. I would purposely play notes out of key straight away, the first thing I'd do. So he'd put the progression down. I'll play something over this, Joe. I'd just be... dissonant chords. I'm like, what do you think of this? It's good. It's good.
That's not a bad idea.
Break the ice that way,
yeah,
and then when you do accidentally make a mistake later on, then it's fine, because you've already made the worst mistake.
It's not a bad idea. Yeah. No, it's a good tip. It's a good tip. Just purposely, just call it jazz.
Yeah.
Just call it jazz.
No, you've got to make a joke out of it.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
I've already mentioned it, but being a rock band, shameless plug, we're the Hot One Too. we have a pretty energetic live show, and suffice to say, like we're sprinting around the set. There's mistakes, and mistakes happen. I think I remember a quote from Dave Grohl saying, like, 50% of the show is kind of what people see, and at the end of the day, I think so long as you put on a show, I know I've made a mistake, and I'll chat to someone afterwards. I'll chat to my dad maybe afterwards, and I was like, "Did you hear that in that song?" And he was like, "No." Like it's like,
so strange.
You are your own worst critic when it comes to that, and you could have made the biggest blunder you think on that stage, and unless there's a trained musician there who's kind of analysing every little bit. No, the average show, they're not going to listen and they're not going to pick it up.
Just to add on to that as well, something that I sort of realised, and this is one of the things that really kind of sort of levelled me out when I was having that kind of really anxious, like, oh, I can't play, this is terrible. Is that like anybody who is going to say, like that guy when I was doing that session, anybody that's going to say like, oh, you made a mistake there, isn't really worth listening to. Do you know what I mean? Because it's like, yeah, I did, but that's live music. Do you know what I mean? Or whatever. You're going to make mistakes.
Well, that comment says a lot about him rather than you.
I was going to say, and it's not that big a deal anyway, is it? Like,
But yeah, but I mean, we did a live show at a venue called The Junction, and we recorded it all, got all the audio for it.
Where is The Junction? I've played there.
That's in Cambridge, yeah.
Cambridge, yeah.
It's a big venue. It's a great venue in Cambridge. Yeah. But we recorded it before COVID and everything, and we released it. And when this idea of putting stuff out onto social media, like we didn't overdub anything, but that's kind of a take that you're just you want to release this. And when we were playing and I was playing it on stage, I remember thinking like, don't this up. And there were bits in that song where I'm like, I'm not going to enjoy listening to that back. And you get a little bit tense when you're listening to it back. Your drummer's there looking at you, like the bass, my bassist and my singer, they're all listening to it. And I'm like, it's coming up, it's coming up, it's coming up.
It's there.
It wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad.
I think our minds can create much more worse scenarios.
And there's always going to be a bigger perfectionist than you. Yeah. Like being with Fell Silent, like those guys, I considered myself obviously a really good guitarist, but
all right. Gee. You are a pretty good guitarist.
The thing is, though, it's so modest normally, that's the biggest headed thing he's ever said, isn't it?
No, I do consider myself a good guitarist. But these guys were like, it's a different kind of thing. So I considered myself a good lead player or whatever, and just overall okay player. But these guys had their one. I've realised best player in the world. I'm all right. These guys had this one kind of thing that they were like always, solid. Yeah, it's you'd play one note, but it had to be tight as
like a machine.
Yeah. So they're like on stage, every time I came off with them, because I was the vocalist, I'd come off and be like, yeah, that sounded sick, it sounded good on stage, everyone in the crowd, yeah. And they're just every night, no, it wasn't tight.
Wow.
Every single night.
Wow.
But in your opinion, it was tight?
Oh, yeah.
Were they saying that you weren't?
No, they're them, themselves.
Oh,
so
damn.
it was Ackle and Brown, the two guitarists. Sometimes they say, it was a cool show, it was a good show. And Max, the bass player, was just like, fine. These two were just like, no, it has to be like getting their calculators out. No, but it's polyrhythmic metal where it's like everything is sugar sort of vibes. But so there's always someone who's more of a perfectionist is my point.
Yeah. I'll tell you what has changed my outlook on kind of like is we've started using in-ears now on our live shows, and that's changed stuff. And just knowing that my drummer can kind of hear every little bit of what I'm playing. Straight. That's a great thing about kind of modelling out. So I just take it straight out of Helix, and I'll look round to him, and then he'll look over me.
Do that look to the camera.
Just like, I heard that, and I'm just like, damn it.
Don't you just say, you're a drummer, right?
Yeah.
No offense, drummers.
Just like hit things and stay sweaty at the back and just like
stay sweaty.
Oh god.
But anyway, I was trying to bring that back around to posting stuff on social media and kind of that live show we had at the Junction. We just let's just get it out. And that was received really well.
Yeah.
But again, putting stuff out on social media, you either kind of, I think you have those people that do look at it kind of under a microscope and are real self-critical before they put something out. I try to be a little bit more blasé and relaxed about it.
You are quite a laid-back guy.
Yeah, I'm pretty laid back.
In a good way. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
One of the things, again, on the subject of sort of social media, one of the things I did want to ask you guys about was compared to, when did you start playing, Adam? If you're okay with that.
Oh, I'll give my age away now, won't I?
Yeah.
Are we using the
lutes
819?
I invented electric guitar. Les Paul didn't come up with it. It was me first. No, 1990. I think it was the year you guys were born. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're giving our age away now.
Oops. Oh, there we go. Could be worse to be my age. So about 1990 it was. Yeah.
Yeah, and you guys, again, sort of born 1990.
Yeah, so I guess I started playing around early 2000s, I guess.
Yeah, I was 12.
Yeah, so early 2000, 2002, 2003.
Do you reckon then, especially sort of even comparing because I was born in 97 and I started playing when I was
God, the year after I graduated music college.
and I started playing when I was 11, 12, sort of similar age as you. And even then, social media wasn't really a big thing. YouTube was a pretty big thing, which obviously gave people a platform to go and look at. But let's say, sort of back in in Adam's day, just to make you sound really old.
Speak up, I can't hear.
Get the horn out. No, but do you think there's all musicians had to kind of compare themselves to, say before the kind of explosion of social media, was musicians that were already established on albums like your Steve Vai's, your Satriani's, Van Halen's and all that stuff. Do you think now you have such a kind of, you have a much more broad...
There's more people you can see playing who are not necessarily guitar legends.
Thank you. Yeah, there we go. So there are just bedroom players in whatever country that you look at and you're like, well, that's
not normal.
Yeah, literally. You're like, what? And then again, just sort of going back to the whole lockdown thing, where I was kind of looking at all these people, and I think I realised that I'd been kind of feeding myself that for kind of years, being on Instagram and stuff like that. Is that you're like, oh, there's so many guys out there that are really good, and going back to that imposter syndrome thing.
I could have helped you out there. I just wanted to hear it a few more times.
Going back to that imposter syndrome thing, I was teaching at this point, and I was like, look at all these guys out here doing all of this, and here I am trying to tell people how to play the bloody instrument. So I just thought if you guys had any sort of insight, how you think that kind of affects either yourselves or kind of other people. If you've noticed students maybe notice something, I think it's going to push people to, guitarists are only really getting better and better. It's just the evolution of the instrument is, it just keeps going. But at the same time, do you think it makes it almost more daunting for newer players to start out, looking at all of these guys that, because, sometimes you get, you get some kids that come in that have been playing for 2 years, and you think they've been playing for 5. And then, I've only been playing for this long, and you're like, wow, that's pretty good. Again, now you can see all of these people. It's not just the mates that you've got at school or whatever. It's you can see all of these people on Instagram or whatever. So,
I think from the beginning, it's more inspiring. It's just more inspiration, isn't it? But then I think as you progress on the instrument and as you actually get to a professional standard, that's when you start kind of, I can only say from my experience, but that's when I'd start looking at other guitarists. Before it was no, I just want to play like Kirk Hammett and I'm going to learn every Metallica solo and once I can play it, I'm good.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point actually, to be fair. So I'm thinking back to when I obviously started playing, that was it. You saw someone and you were just like, I want to do that. As I wonder when it sort of made the switch from, I guess maybe it was when I started sort of doing it I think when I started noticing progression in myself, when I started to kind of think like, oh, I'm getting pretty good. That was like smacked back down. No, you're not. Look at this guy.
Yeah, I think it's more on the creative side, especially for me. Like in terms of learning something, I know all I got to do is just sit down and practice and learn something.
Yeah.
Whereas if I got to create something, that's something that's coming out of complete thin air, and you can't force it. So.
Yeah.
But I think this is probably going off on a tangent from it, but it's all definitely to do with the kind of mental health side of it, is the creative industry in general, whether it's music or art or any form of art, I guess, is so up and down that you don't know when you're going to get paid, you don't know when something's going to come off, and that's a whole nother kind of conversation.
For authors.
Yeah. But also just... You might have, like for me, I've got banks of songs that we've made over the years, sessions like every day when I was at the studio, and one of those songs might come out in 2 years.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
You're waiting for things to happen, and everyone always says don't give up. You never know when you're like on the edge of getting a number one or
when
like
you're
a big record.
because you said that you've got obviously you've got a whole bank of sort of tracks ready to go. When you're because I'm writing a lot now, and I sort of always have done, but now we're sort of starting up a new sort of band, so I've been writing a lot for that, and I always find that I'll have a week or a month or a day where I'm just the most efficient. It's like tunnel vision, and I'm just like everything. You know what it's like when you're in that good sort of creative place. You're like, I don't eat, I don't sleep, because I know I've got to ride that wave for as long as it goes, because eventually it will come crashing down. And it's those. So even though you've got this like bank of songs, do you still put like a lot of kind of pressure when you're not like? When you try and sit down to write and you don't, do you kind of look back and think like, well, I've got all this stuff and this stuff's great, or is it still just looking at the present and being like, well, right now I'm not coming up with anything, and that's annoying.
Those were like, there's definitely, it depends on the session, like how the vibe is with whoever you've got in the room, like
or even when you're just writing at home and stuff.
This is what I was going to say. When I'm writing at home, it has to be that tunnel vision thing that you mentioned, where you're like in the zone. I have the last 3 years I've had, I don't know whether it's been like some form of like musical depression or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
I've just not wanted to make music at all.
Yeah.
I've
3
been
years,
like, yeah. Like
I thought it was more of a like recent.
Well, it is probably the more I've realised it now, but definitely like for the last 2-3 years, it's probably not enjoyed listening to music at all. I only say that because I remember...
I can relate to that. I don't really listen to music.
Yeah, I just remember mentioning this to a friend like at a barbecue a couple of years ago, so I know it's been a while, but and you just know how time flies.
Yeah.
And I'm slowly getting out of it now, but that... I think it was just making music a job. Like when I was in my publishing deal or whatever, it was like sessions every day, and it feels like a job,
Yeah.
Whereas music and anything creative, I think, has to just be when it comes. And it was just kind of suppressing that.
Yeah.
That
for sure.
when it comes, and it wasn't coming.
That was fun enough. It was going to be one of the other things I was going to ask about.
Yeah,
actually.
sorry, I went off on a bit of a tangent,
No, it's perfect. I'd completely forgotten about it, and it was exactly that sort of when you're in the industry of your job is to be creative. And I think I notice this all the time with teaching, is if I know that I'm having a bad playing day, or I've tried to sit down and write something and for a week nothing has come out, I've tried everything and just nothing is working, that starts to sort of chip away. And I think, like you said, when you're then going into sessions, or for me it's sort of going into lessons and things like that, you have to be not a level of, I don't even know what it is. You don't have to be at a level of creativity, but you have to be kind of.
You should take a step back. Sorry.
Yeah.
You should just take, if you're really struggling with something like that, you should just take a step back from it. Do something different and come back to it. I think that's probably.
Yeah. I think the way I kind of deal with that, because I'm by no means kind of, I'm an okay guitarist. I get by,
Well, this guy's the best guitarist in the world. Self-proclaimed.
But for me, I kind of.
I'm never going to live that down.
No, it's going to hang around for a little bit. We're going to start introducing Joe Garrett, best guitar player in the world.
I'm amazing.
The Joe Garrett experience.
What did he actually say? He only said you're a pretty good guitarist, didn't you? Yeah. Give him a hard time.
Yeah. But for me, because I do an awful lot of teaching, and that's kind of my job, but I separate kind of being a guitarist and a teacher. I think they're two very different things.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed teaching a lot of my life, kind of a lot of my adult life. If I wasn't doing music, I'd teach kind of football. I started coaching football.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed English when I was younger. You know, I remember helping my sister kind of learn English when I was growing up. I've always wanted to like teach and impart kind of that kind of thing that I like to someone else. And for me, kind of teaching guitar is kind of knowing kind of the theory and everything behind everything helps me teach. But really, it's kind of becoming more of a better teacher more than a better guitarist. If I wake up and
you could be a great guitar player, but not be able to teach anything.
Absolutely, yeah. But I think if I wake up and I can't kind of sweep that A-7 arpeggio that I've been practicing, that doesn't matter. That doesn't affect how.
You do every day.
That doesn't affect. Yeah,
arpeggios for breakfast.
But that's your personality. I've known you a very long time. That's your person. You're a chilled out guy.
Yeah.
I can't see you getting stressed if you can't. You'll just come back to it.
Yeah, but then that doesn't affect how I'm going to teach someone.
Yeah.
And I differentiate.
I don't think I notice it. Or I don't think the student sort of notices it. To be fair, but I feel like I really struggle to kind of separate that, like, because like I said, I absolutely love teaching, and exactly the same as you. I've always loved sort of that kind of imparting knowledge to other people, especially when it's something that you know that you can do. And obviously it's great to see people, you know, when somebody gets something and you're like, it's great. Yes, that's amazing. But I think I'm, you know, let's say, because I try and do, you know, like 5, 10, 15 minutes of kind of improvising and sort of scale stuff with the students every lesson. And I will obviously, you know, give them kind of playable examples and you know, do some of my own stuff. And I'm not one of those guys that's there for, look at this, and just goes off for 20 minutes.
Is that wrong?
No, and I really struggle to kind of separate that, like, that really critical, you need to be doing this really well. That, again, that like creative, like, oh, I'm not having any really good ideas. You know, it'll be the same in my ears, tired, like blues licks, or, you know, phrases that I've been running for years just because that's the way that I play. I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. Obviously, everybody has their sort of unique sounds and stuff. But I feel like when I'm not doing very well creatively, that stuff just really starts to get to me. And then I'll be fine with it. Do you know what I mean? I'll be like, oh, doesn't matter. Like, it all sounds really good. It's really cool. But no, I mean, it's great being able to sort of separate the two. How do you sort of view, when you sit down to like write, how often do you write new stuff all the time, or just like when the mood takes you?
No, I'm not really creative at all. I really struggle on the creative side of things. Okay. In the band, Nick, our bassist, he writes everything.
Okay.
He'll do everything to the drum tracks, all the guitars, the bass. He is the most creative.
The riffs.
Everything, yeah.
Does he play guitar as well? Or is he doing it on bass?
He does it all on guitar. Wow. Yeah. He's got Les Paul at home. He's a phenomenal, one of the best musicians I know. Yeah. And such a creative. Yeah. And
who are the other ones?
You guys are up there.
Well, this guy's the best guitar player in the world.
But then he'll send out these tracks and they're like, oh, listen to this, guys. And we're like, what? That's mad. Like, the level of his demos are insane. Like, he's just mixed and mastered our EP that we're releasing, and it's great. And he does all of that, and then it comes. But then I'll always record my own guitar parts. And then I'll be sitting there, and I'm like, how did he do that? and I'll call him up, and he's just like, oh yeah, that's just all downstrokes, just 30 seconds, and I'm just like, what? Like, hang on, let me go away and practice for 5 hours.
I think there's such a weird like contrast, like with being around musicians and stuff, because there is, I know this, I know a drummer who he's probably just as good, if not a better guitar player than I am. Yeah. And like, I think he plays piano as well. He's really clued up on everything. He's a proper, like, you know, when you just prodigy. You just look at someone, you're like, wow.
It's one of those annoying people.
Yeah, sort of. But they're amazing to be around. But also, you're like, I think it's really like. Do you find it like inspiring or kind of demeaning?
You should
or
never
a mix of the two to be around.
Compare yourself to other people is just you're never going to win. It's a terrible thing to do.
No.
I know we all know that, but people do this in every walk of life. People compare their house to the next one neighbour's. Or some people compare their car to the next guy's car. You're never going to win with that kind of attitude. It's just, and I know it's not something you do on not you personally, but it's not something people do on purpose. No. Yeah. I personally have just I don't think about. No, but I mean that might be with age though. I know we're saying I'm old. No, I'm older than you guys, more experienced. No, but it's true though. So I've probably had a lot more time to just go.
Yeah. No,
what's
for sure.
The point? There's always to be someone faster than you, taller than you, better looking than you, got more money than you.
I don't know. I'm pretty hot.
I'm not including you though. In that, obviously.
This guy's the best guitar player in the world. So.
But do you know what I mean? Though? It's just I think you can, without getting too deep, you can decide how you think about anything, can't you? Yeah. You can train yourself to do. It's easier said than done. I agree, but you can train yourself to.
Yeah, I think to a certain degree for sure. I think there's always a way that you can kind of try and view a situation differently, and that's funnily enough how after the whole lockdown thing, like I said, I went into a really sort of just dark place with playing and everything like that. What really helped, I can't remember if it was you or Adam that said. To sort of step away from it and try something new. Funnily enough, I got really big into synths.
Nice.
During lockdown, I think I might have showed you one of the tracks that I did a little while ago. But I was playing this video game that just has this outstanding soundtrack to it, and it's all these like ambient. It's called Risk of Rain 2, and it's Chris something. I think he's Swedish or something. Right. So I'm not even going to try and butcher the pronunciation of his surname. But the album it's just the soundtrack to that game, and it is. He does it all himself, and it was phenomenal. And I was like, I'm just going to sit down and mess around. Like guitar hasn't been very good recently. I had this little MIDI keyboard that was like that big, and within a day, I'd just smashed out this track. That's cool. And then I was like, I'll do an album, and it was so far removed from guitar playing, but still. Kind of giving you that like creative.
You did the whole song in one day.
Yeah.
So just feeling
literally everything. Literally everything.
I've done it a few times in my life, but the whole song's just done.
Yeah. It's really rare. The greatest, and I remember because I was so when you get that like surge of creative like juice.
It's like you're tapping into something really. I can't explain it, but
it is
force to tap into. It's just...
I think I went to bed at about 2 and got up at 5 and was like. I want to carry on doing this, and the next one, and it was amazing.
Wouldn't it be great if that happened every day? Yeah.
This is the thing, isn't it? It's just you've just got to grab those moments, and I think it's because it's like a force that you can't control, is it? I think it's just one of those things that you have to just when you're not performing to that level. Do you know what I mean? When you're not, either writing the way you want to be playing or playing the way that you want to be playing. I think it's just knowing that it's all in there. Like it's just sometimes it's harder to kind of access than others. So I think that's the thing that really got me and kind of everything that I took away from it, which was really nice, a very kind of sobering thought. So if I'm ever feeling sort of crap about playing or whatever, it's like no, I'm pretty good. I'm not the best guitar player in the world, but I'm pretty good. I'm gonna keep bringing that up. Sorry.
Okay, cool. We talked quite a bit about this stuff now, so should we leave it there today,
Thanks
guys?
for listening to our ramblings. James, thanks for the questions and the insight.
No, thank you for your insight, mate.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
We'll do this again. We're thinking about doing this as a bit of a series for the podcast, aren't we? So,
be good.
Yeah.
Just ramble about nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for watching, guys. Please make sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon, and we'll see you next time on Veevar Guitar Podcasts.